This is the Timbo Slice podcast featuring Jordan. Welcome to episode 12.
Hello, we do not have a guest this time again, but hopefully we will for episode 13. So welcome back, and today we're going to start off our topic with a question that Jordan has about Star Wars.
Dear Mr. Turtle, why is the new Star Wars movie going to be called Rise of Skywalker? Is that it? Did I get it right?
I believe so.
Yeah, so Leia is the only Skywalker left,
So
so far as I know. Or maybe Luke will use the Force to unghost himself, come back and kill everybody.
Maybe. So here's the thing. I think it would be hard for it to be significantly about Leia at this point, because Carrie Fisher is dead.
Carrie Fisher is dead.
And so, my understanding was that everybody thought she was going to die in the previous episode, episode 8. And then they decided to troll us by repurposing the footage that existed in order to make her not die in episode 8. So, I think she's going to have to die in 9. I don't know if they have enough to like actually really use her in a full movie as a major character. I don't know.
Unless they replace her like Dumbledore, right?
Or I don't know if they do that. Or if they CGI her in like they did for Grand Moff Tarkin. I don't know. I think that it's possible that they're going to try to say that Rey is a Skywalker, or maybe that Kylo Ren is technically a Skywalker because Leia is his mom. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say, like, how could Rey be a Skywalker? Like, wasn't that one of the big reveals of number 8?
It could have been fake.
So who told her this? Was it
Snoke.
Kylo Ren? Oh, Snoke did, so he could have been lying or whatever.
Yeah, I guess. Actually, wait, was it Kylo? I think it was Snoke who said, yeah, you're just nobody.
But, like, the only way she could have been a Skywalker is if she's descended from either Luke, right?
Which, as far as we know, had no relationship with anybody.
Or Vader, right? Could have been her father somehow by some other mother.
I suppose that's possible.
And then the only other one was Uncle Ben, right? Was the last Skywalker.
What's his last name? Skywalker, though? I don't think it was.
Well, Anakin's mom was a Skywalker.
Yes.
Right? And, well, maybe not. So I don't know if she changed her name when she married.
It was Uncle Owen. That was his name. Uncle Owen.
Oh, right. I'm thinking
Aunt
Spider-Man.
Beru, I think. Yeah.
Uncle Ben.
Uncle Owen. Yeah, I don't know if Owen was a Skywalker.
That's kind of a huge inconsistency in the story, isn't it? So in number 2, Vader flips out because his mom gets killed, right? And murders all the sand people.
Yep.
And then in Empire, he sends someone down to kill. They just kill, right? There's like no mention of like, I know you're going to Tatooine to look through the deserts for some people. Whatever you do, like, don't kill my half-brother, right? But he doesn't care. The death of his mom totally wrecks him. Guess he always hated his half-brother.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know.
Mom always liked you best.
He even knew. Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that is kind of weird.
It doesn't work,
Right.
right? Like, the prequel doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But getting back to the later movies, which are more interesting, 4, 5, and 6, I mean, and maybe 7, 8, and 9. I know some people love them. I've not seen them. I don't have any judgments for them. Some things seem silly to me, like Luke killing himself in the most recent one, just for, I don't know why, just because it's fun to do. It's fun to be a Force ghost.
Yeah, I guess.
More fun to be a Force ghost than it is to be alive.
Yeah, so
Did Luke was he having an existential crisis in number 7 and 8?
it seems like it. They don't really do a great job of explaining why. Basically, he was training.
Like, why not just Force ghost yourself, like, immediately, right? Like, if life sucks, then why not just Force ghost yourself?
He was training Kylo. He had was it like a vision that Kylo was going to turn to the dark side, or he could sense that Kylo was maybe starting to turn. And so he tried to murder Kylo in his sleep. And then, of course, Kylo wakes up with Luke standing over him with his lightsaber raised.
I guess that's another inconsistent thing, right? Like, everyone's telling Luke, like, your dad, Vader, there's no turning him back. He's gone to the dark side, right? He's always going to be bad. And Luke's like, no way, I can turn him. But as soon as he has some dream that Kylo's going bad, pulls out his lightsaber.
And he's going to murder him in his sleep as like a 14-year-old kid.
Yeah, my father could be redeemed. Kylo Ren is a different story.
Yeah, right. It's just totally out of character for Luke to just like go crazy and try to murder some kid in his bed. So yeah, Kylo wakes up at the last second and like I can't remember exactly what happens. He like uses the Force and there's like a clash and it causes the temple they're inside to collapse and
So somehow Kylo, at 14 years old,
is able to evade being murdered by Luke, right? And so
Luke is not the Jedi that his father was.
And so what's interesting is he basically made Kylo evil by trying to murder him. So, which is, it's like, what happened, Luke, man? Jeez, what happened to you? And so he basically creates a villain by trying to murder some kid in his sleep when you're his trusted master, you know? And then from then, I guess he's so torn up about it that he leaves the galaxy and goes into hiding, and that's eventually where Rey finds him, and he doesn't want to teach anybody anymore. He doesn't want to be a part of anything, and
So what is he doing with himself?
he's just surviving.
Just hanging out.
Yeah,
There's a
kinda-
Studio C sketch, just a parody. Like he's trying to have the best lawn in the sketch.
Oh, yeah.
That's why he's upset that Rey appeared. Because she's walking on his perfectly manicured lawn.
Yeah, no, he's basically kind of like how Yoda was in exile, but Yoda was in exile because people were hunting him and he was the last Jedi and he knew he needed to save his knowledge so that it could be passed on.
Right, the Emperor wanted to kill him.
Whereas Luke is just basically sulking and running away from the problem that he created. Because now there's a powerful Sith out there that he basically forced into evil by trying to kill him. And then he just ran away from the problem instead of being the one good guy Force user that could stand against him. So Luke's story is pretty bad, pretty, I'd say, out of character, maybe unbelievable. It's kind of silly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So I don't know if somehow Rey is a Skywalker, or if Kylo, even though his last name is technically Solo, I don't know if he's going to be considered a Skywalker, maybe turn good and change his last name. I don't know. Maybe it'll be Leia, like you said. I don't know what they're planning. All I know is that apparently they're trying to bring back Emperor Palpatine, who last I saw was falling down an extremely deep shaft in the Death Star moments before it blew up. So even if he survived the fall somehow, how did he get out, right?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, and then why would he be invisible for years and years and years?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, why is he letting this new empire form when he could still be running the old empire?
Yeah, why wouldn't he just show up and be like, all right, we lost our second Death Star, but we're still good. We can pick up the pieces.
Right. Minor setback, everybody.
Yeah. Really.
We are not quitters.
Yeah, because if I remember episode 6, it's been a while, but I remember Luke was like trying to drag his dad, Vader, to a ship to escape from the Death Star before it blew up, right?
Right.
Because the whole battle was raging outside, and his dad ends up dying there, and so he leaves them. And then, but yet somehow Kylo Ren recovers the helmet. But anyway,
Yes.
so I don't know how that happened, but
Well, didn't Luke burn the helmet? I thought he burned
that's
it
right.
in Return of the Jedi.
So maybe he did get Vader's body out of there then, because didn't they burn the body then, the whole body?
I don't know. So
don't remember.
the suit burned
Yeah.
with the helmet.
Yeah, so he must have gotten the whole thing out.
So
then.
it was unclear if the body was in there or not.
Yeah, I mean, it wouldn't make sense to just burn the suit. Like if you're worried about rescuing something, it wouldn't be like your
Yeah.
dad's body.
So we don't know a lot about funeral rites in the Star Wars galaxy. It is conceivable, right, that Luke was like, well, my dad wasn't Vader anymore, so I'll bury my dad and I'll burn the suit, right?
Mhm.
And good riddance to Darth Vader. So that's plausible, right?
Sure,
That could
sure.
have happened. But
Yeah.
it's also plausible, right, that they just burn people. That's the
Mhm.
normal way that you dispose of the remains of your dearly departed.
Yeah. And so, yeah, the helmet is all jacked up when Kylo has it, but it is a little surprising that he has that. And it's a little surprising that some weird lady in a tavern has Luke's original lightsaber that he dropped while hanging from, like, the bottom of Cloud City. So, yes, I don't know how these things happen, but, yeah, so Palpatine somehow, I guess, gets out of the Death Star as well.
He does
survives.
the force thing through space.
Yeah.
Like he was floating around in space after the Death Star exploded, and he used the force to pull himself into an
Sure.
escape pod and fly off.
Sure. I
So
mean,
that's what he did.
whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
So I guess we'll see what happens. We're scheduled to see that movie in December as a team, like our whole department's going. So I guess these questions will be answered soon.
I guess. But to anyone's satisfaction, that's the big question.
And I don't think so.
I can't think of an interesting way for the movie to be the rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
Unless it's just some. So I guess there is one way I could think of it. Just some imposter, right? Claiming to be some Skywalker, some con man that's kind of building his own empire
Mm-hmm.
using the Jedi name, right?
Yeah. I mean,
That would be interesting.
sure.
Like the death of Superman, right? In those comics, like there are 4 Supermen that appeared after that.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, there were. I don't think any of them were the real Superman. But it was interesting, right? Because they were all using the Superman name. And there's incentive to do that, right?
Yeah.
Superman is a household name.
Yep.
There are benefits to being Superman.
For sure. So yeah, as far as Star Wars goes, though, I'm more curious about what they're gonna do than I am excited to watch it. If that makes sense. I don't know. I don't feel that into it these days.
Yeah.
Star Wars.
I think there's a common sentiment, either not being that into it or feeling like you have to defend it. Or I guess the third option is like, yeah, the new movies are good. Would I compare them to the old ones? Probably not. Well, that's a good enough movie.
Yeah. Anyway, so one of the subjects I wanted to talk about today, Jordan, is maybe somewhat related to what we've already been talking about, and that would be aliens.
Aliens?
Aliens, Jordan.
I'm not talking illegals, are we?
No.
Sorry if I offended anyone. That was all in the spirit of humor.
No, we're talking about extraterrestrials.
All right.
So, to start this off, I want to ask you some questions. We can discuss the basics, lay the groundwork first.
All right. I will answer truthfully.
So, the first question is life outside of Earth, does it exist?
I don't know.
Do you think it does?
I think it does.
I think so too. Yeah, I'd say I don't know, but I think it does is probably where I'm at as well. I mean, we can't really know without having proof, but I think scientifically, in a universe the size of the one we have, it seems improbable that that we're the only life in the entire thing. I think it's extremely improbable.
Right.
So just based off of that, scientifically, mathematically, it seems absurd to assume that there is no life beyond our planet. But is there any intelligent life? Because that's another question, right? Because there could be bacteria all over the place, single-celled, primitive organisms, but intelligent life, that's stepping it up a little bit, right?
Yeah, it sure is.
What are your thoughts on that?
There probably is.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think so too. I mean, again, probably for the same reason. Like, it would be, I would say, improbable for us to be the only ones, right?
Yeah. But how intelligent?
Maybe more than us.
That's another interesting
maybe equivalent.
question.
Yeah. Right.
I watched the Vsauce episode this week about, what was it about? Oh, is my red the same as your red?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like just perception, right?
Right.
And how people's neural networks assemble reality for them. But the interesting part to me wasn't that so much as he talked about gorillas that can sign, right? Or other primates that can sign. And according to Michael of Vsauce, the one thing that none of these signing primates has ever done is ask a question. None of them has done it. They can all answer questions. They can all say things. And Michael's point, I guess, was significant about our consciousness, is that we have this concept of other perceptions than our own and other people knowing things that we don't. He also talked about this test that they do. You tell a story, or you might have a flannel board or whatever, because you tell it to young children, Like there are two people, their names are like Sarah and Anne, or Anna and Betty, something like that. And they're both in the same room together, and there's a box and there's a basket. And Sarah, the first character, puts the cookie under the box, and then she leaves the room. And then the character that stays in the room takes the cookie out of the box and puts it in the basket. And then the other character comes back. And then you ask the child, where is this first character going to look for the cookie? And I think it's like in the 3 to 4-year-old range is when you have the jump. So below that, right, kids that can comprehend language that are below that age will say it's in the place that it moved to, right? The place that the first character wouldn't know about, because they kind of don't have this concept yet of another perception. But once you get to like that 3, 4-year-old range and beyond, the children always consistently answer, she's going to look in the box.
Right.
Because that's where she put it. That's where she thinks it is.
Interesting.
So yeah, if there is intelligent life elsewhere in the universe, how intelligent, right?
Because you would kind of have to define that, right?
Is it signing primate intelligent? Is it our intelligence? Or is it beyond even our intelligence, right? To where like we don't even think to ask questions from their frame of reference, right? We're the 2-dimensional shape in a 3-dimensional world.
I would probably reword the question then to be equal to or greater than human intelligence.
Equal to or greater than? I think there probably is.
And so the next question is, have we been visited? Has this planet been visited by such creatures?
I don't think I have any idea on that one. Why would they visit here? So the assumption there would be like they are able to see us, right? Like we haven't been able to find them in the galaxy or the universe or whatever, but they've somehow been able to detect us. Why would they come here?
Yeah. And more importantly, if they're anything like us and they can get here, why haven't they conquered us?
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Because isn't that something we would do?
one reason to come would be the rareness of life, right?
Right,
Like
yeah.
what we're able to observe in the galaxy. Probably if we found bacteria somewhere, right? We would try and get to the bacteria just for the
Yes.
sake of collecting living
Right.
bacteria from somewhere else in the universe.
Because likely there's something we could learn about it, especially if it came to existence in a completely different environment. You know, maybe it isn't carbon based. Maybe studying it will teach us something about biology that we couldn't learn from
Right.
things on Earth.
You learn something about the nature of life itself.
Yeah. And if you're a civilization that's sufficiently advanced to travel to and observe another world that's populated by intelligent beings, then you're probably way ahead of where we are. And so in some ways, it's almost like being able to take a look at the past for them, probably, right?
So would there be any reason not to interact at that point? If you were going to the trouble, right? Assuming there's any trouble for them, I guess that's another assumption, right? So you don't know how burdensome travel is for them.
Yeah.
For us to travel across the universe is like nearly impossible, right? Like you'd have to find a way to put a human body in stasis,
Yeah.
because like we just don't live long enough to survive.
Yeah.
the
Or you'd have
trip.
to travel sufficiently fast enough to where the relativistic speeds make time slower for you.
Right. It's a huge problem for us,
Yeah.
even if we were able to detect the life, right?
Yeah.
To get a living human to where it was,
Yeah.
or even to get, just some robot there and back. To have people on the planet that still remembered that we'd sent a robot by the time it returned,
Yeah.
it would be a significant challenge.
Yeah, even if it never returned but only beamed information back, if it's many, many, many light years away, it'd still take potentially hundreds of years for that information to return.
Yeah. How do you make sure that there's someone around to collect it, still paying attention? So yeah, I guess, could you reason your way through that one? Is it possible that intelligent beings would come here and not make noticeable contact?
Yeah, not steal our resources, not destroy or enslave us, not try to teach us something.
Well, it seems so. They wouldn't necessarily need our resources, right? Because there are a significant number of Goldilocks planets, right, that we've observed that could support life.
Yeah, and especially if they don't necessarily need like our atmosphere or like for example, water. There's frozen chunks of water all throughout space, and if they can travel faster than the speed of light,
getting
then
water,
they don't need to get it from us.
Right, water would not be a problem.
Right. Neither would any, probably any kind of mineral or substance element, right?
Yeah, anything on the periodic table.
Right. They should be able to get pretty easily, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. Unless they were being attacked by some even more advanced race, and they needed some humpback whales.
Yes. We're the only planet that has them.
Right. That's why they come here.
Yeah.
Just to take a few humpback whales.
So I was listening to some podcasts on some episodes of Joe Rogan.
Uh-huh.
And there were two guests I listened to recently. One guy used to work at Area 51. And the other guy was a Air Force pilot. And both of them talked about their experiences or their encounters with advanced technology that they say is out of this world, basically. Like, we don't have it. And
like they saw it up close and didn't know how it worked.
Yeah.
Like
basically.
they were in an airplane or whatever.
Yeah, so the guy who was a pilot, he saw stuff on more than one occasion that he can't explain, and that seems beyond the capability of our technology. And then there's the Area 51 scientist guy who says he directly worked on spacecraft that had to have not been human made. It was too advanced. So the question I have for you, Jordan, is, do you think these advanced vehicles exist? So I'll probably have to explain what I mean by that a little bit more, but do they exist? And if so, did we make them or did they come from somewhere else? So here's kind of the description. So the Air Force pilot guy, he describes it as like a tic-tac shape thing, kind of like a rectangle with rounded corners.
Okay.
And it could move around rapidly in midair, change directions instantly, and they had advanced targeting systems that normally when you look at like an airplane or something else, you can see the wake of its propulsion system behind it. And there was nothing like that in any of the recordings. And these have actually been released to the public by the government, so you can actually see some of these videos on YouTube. And it's hard to even tell what they are, but you'll see like an object moving across the screen, and then they like lock onto it with their targeting system in their airplane, and they just track it while it's moving. And you just see this like a tic-tac shaped thing just flying through the air. And you can't see, they change through like all the different modes that the camera can do, like infrared and whatever, to see heat, and you only see it itself. You don't see any kind of like plume behind it. You don't see any kind of like traditional propulsion system, because
it doesn't emit any radiation. Right. It just reflects visible light.
Right. And the other thing too is their modes can also detect like disturbance in the air. So like if you're using jet propulsion, for example, where you're just blowing air behind you, it would be able to pick that up too. It look kind of like ripply, kind of like how you see ripples over a hot road in the summer. Mm-hmm. You'd be able to see those, and you don't see those either. So it's not pushing air for propulsion, and it's not burning anything for propulsion, but yet it's flying through the air. So, what do you think? Real, faked videos? What's your take?
So the thing that seems most plausible to me is faked. Why does that seem the most plausible? Well, just like, so the other scenarios, right? One is like that it's alien tech, mm-hmm. right? It can be super hard to get human tech to work, right? So to have that giant, like, thinking language barrier even, seems like there'd be a high likelihood of it being impossible to use it, even if it ended up here somehow, right? Mm-hmm. However it got here, Seems like it would be just about impossible to use
Yeah.
unless it was just like our tech, right?
So you think that rules out the idea that it's alien tech that we're using, that if we have a human
Yeah.
flying a UFO.
Yeah. It seems implausible to me. Like, have you ever tried just like switch any of your like your TV to even Spanish, right?
Mhm.
And then use it. It's significantly harder.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So anyway, that's an assumption that my mind makes that if it's
Yeah.
alien technology, like the culture barrier would be so huge, there would be like almost zero hope of you making it do something useful unless you had it for a super long time.
Yeah. That's probably fair. Yeah.
I would think it would take like a lifetime, right? So it'd be like what's that movie, Arrival,
Hmm.
right? It would take a lifetime of somebody, that their only thing was language to figure out, right? So you'd have an electrical engineer and some linguist person just spending an entire lifetime figuring out how to make it do even the most basic things.
But let's say you took a vehicle, a car, and you dropped it into like medieval Europe and left the keys in the ignition. Eventually, someone would figure out how to drive it, right? Eventually.
They could. What would you do? What would it be like to them? I guess they had keys back then. See, that's the thing. They already have the concept
Yeah,
of a
that's
key,
true.
right? So turning a key is just an intuitive thing to
Mhm.
do. Humans have been doing it for a long, long time.
Yeah.
So you'd have to drop that into a culture where keys don't exist, right?
Yeah.
And then it's like, the most likely thing you do is pull it out, right?
Hmm.
I guess you would try to turn it because it's circular, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, you might start it and then it would make noise. Well, and it has wheels too, right? So you got the concept of wheels. Yeah, I guess it is. You could. There's just so many concepts, right, that are familiar to our experience that it wouldn't be that
Mhm.
hard.
Yeah. It's one of the things that the scientist guy described was the power system that provides the energy for the craft. And he said it was um, kind of like an anti-gravity generating sphere. So he said like you could try to move your hand towards it and then you'd feel resistance to the point where you couldn't move your hand any closer, like there's an invisible force field. And he talked about how like in his studies they figured out that it was some element that we didn't have on the periodic table at the time, but we knew something should be there because, like in theory, you could have a number of protons for an element like.
Yeah, there's elements on the table
Right.
that we can only cause to exist for not even
Right.
a noticeable amount of
Yeah,
time.
because
to
we
a
can't
human.
keep them stable.
Right.
But like
Elements you can only create like in a particle accelerator, right?
yeah, and
At
so
CERN.
yeah, and so he said basically like I think it was 115 was the number. So we know that 115 protons in theory should be able to go together. Maybe not in any stable configuration that we are aware of though. But he said they used some kind of stable isotope of element 115. I might be completely butchering that number. And then that somehow created some kind of anti-gravity field and pretty nuts, huh? So
That is pretty nuts. Yeah. And those dots don't connect to me. Like I don't understand gravity very good,
yeah.
but isn't it just like a phenomenon of bending the space
Mhm.
or space somehow?
Right. And so the idea that I guess he was kind of putting forward was that thing probably not only provides power, but also propels the craft by warping the fabric of space-time, or whatever. Which is why you don't see any like plume behind it or
Oh, I see.
anything.
Because it's not using Newtonian physics to move
Right.
out.
Right.
It's not a conservation of momentum thing. It's more of a bending space
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah. So it's moving the space around it. It itself isn't moving.
Right.
Which is how they suspect it can like stop on a dime and reverse direction instantly. and like one thing he talks about, or no, it was the Air Force guy, the pilot. He says, you know, like if there were a human inside the craft based on the way it moved, you'd be dead. It'd be like if you were a ping pong ball inside a glass jar and you start shaking the glass jar, like you'd be bouncing off the walls, you'd be dead. And so, um, however, though, if the craft officially isn't, I mean, it's not officially isn't the right word. If it's technically not even moving, but it's just moving, is causing the space around itself to warp, then you wouldn't feel any G forces, right?
I don't know.
I don't know either.
I don't know enough about relativity and gravity.
But yeah,
If only Meryl were here. He could
I
answer
know.
our questions.
right?
Meryl asked, if you're listening, we need you to be a guest on the show.
Yeah.
We can phone you in.
He's probably, yeah. I guess even if he is in, I think he's in New York. Even if he is, we could have him as a remote guest.
I think I tried to find him on LinkedIn and the other social media. I don't think he exists there.
He is on LinkedIn, but I don't know if he really uses it because I don't
Yeah.
think he's updated it. But
Still
yeah,
a QA at Exactware on there.
I think it still says
I
that.
still
Yeah.
work at Exactware on LinkedIn.
Yeah. Well, so it sounds like um, you feel that it's implausible that there's technology that we found or recovered and we're the ones using it. Then.
Right, that seems less likely to me.
Mhm.
I guess,
Okay.
yeah, neither of them seem very plausible. Or us making that, right?
Right.
And it somehow staying concealed.
Yeah, because that would revolutionize everything, right?
Yeah, well, there'd be somebody, right? Somebody
Mhm.
that is like, there's no way we can keep this top secret.
Mm-hmm.
Some Indiana Jones to say, this belongs in
Right.
a museum,
Yeah,
or this
'cause-
belongs to all of
Because if you
humanity.
think about it, what's the point of keeping something like that secret? Probably for military advantage, right? So wouldn't you see that, like, or unless we're just holding it in our back pocket for the day that China or Russia tries to fight us or something, and then all of a sudden we're like, hey, look, we got craft that can.
Alien technology,
That's right.
checkmate.
That's right. Like, I don't know. I would have thought we would have started using that at this point already. If we had that kind of advantage, if we knew how to utilize it and knew how to create weapons or vehicles or whatever using those types of concepts, then why haven't we yet? So unless we just have it, we recovered it somehow, and we're still trying to figure it out. I mean, that's kind of what the Area 51 guy was portrayed it as. He said, we have this. He said we have 9. We have 9 alien spacecraft in Area 51. They all look different. They're all different shapes, but they all use the same power and propulsion system.
Did he say how they got there?
No, he doesn't know.
Hmm.
And he said he's pretty sure only the United States has them. I don't know how he would know that either.
Yeah. How would you know that, Area 51 guy?
Yeah.
If the other countries had an Area 51, right?
You think you would know about it?
They're going to be more open than the U.S. is.
Yeah. So
If North Korea had a bunch of alien spacecraft, they would be bragging about it.
they might, yeah. Yeah, and so there are theories that are like we dug him up in Antarctica or something, like they've been here before, ancient aliens, or maybe they crash landed here in the 50s, or who knows. He didn't know.
At one point, they were interested in us. They wiped all of our memories before leaving, and they
Yeah.
left behind a few spacecraft.
Mm-hmm.
It's an odd story.
Yeah.
Once again, hard to believe unless, just the rarity of life in the universe, right?
Yeah.
Like, even if you thought a planet of sentient beings was reprobate and reprehensible, right? Like, if it was the only other one,
Yeah.
or they were super duper rare, right? Which it seems like, right? Given
Mhm.
the immensity of space. Sentient life is ultra rare. Any life is ultra rare.
Yeah.
You wouldn't just ignore it. It's like when we were kids watching TV, right? It doesn't matter that there's nothing on. You're going to watch it anyway.
Yeah.
It's all there is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just going to flip through every channel on daytime TV over and
Mhm.
over again.
Yeah, I mean,
for sure I'd expect them to be studying us heavily, right? Unless they're so advanced that there's not much they can learn from us.
Yeah, I guess that could be another thing, right? This could be prolonged surveillance. Like
Mhm.
their lifespans are significantly longer than ours. They're like ants.
Mm-hmm.
We all seem super hasty to them.
Yeah.
To us, or to them, our lives are like the lifespan of a fruit fly.
Yeah. It's possible.
Yeah, we can watch fruit flies for a long time before we feel like we have to interact with them, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what about you? What do you think?
What do I think, huh?
So what did the pilot think? So the Area 51 guy thinks only the United States has them.
Mhm.
Thinks they are legit from aliens.
Mhm.
Like, was the tech all the same, or is there like a variety of spacecraft? Did he say?
He said they varied in how they looked, but they all were basically the same on the inside. Like they used the same power, propulsion.
Okay.
Um,
So effectively the same aliens. They're like different models of cars
yeah,
for
right.
us.
Yeah.
And then what about the Air Force guy? So he'd only seen how many alien spacecraft had he been in or
So
seen?
I think I don't know if he saw the second kind, but he said there are two main kinds he knows of. One is like the Tic Tac shape, and the other looks like a. I think he said like a cube inside a clear beach ball.
Okay.
Those are the two main ones that he talked about on Joe Rogan, I think. And he said at the time when he first saw the Tic Tac shaped one, he said he first noticed it because they were flying over open water, and he said when you're flying over open water, it's easy to see something because anything that's in the water will have like white water around it because it's disturbing the waves.
Mm-hmm.
And so like they were able to spot something that was shaped like a cross, like large, like the size of a 747 or whatever, in the water. And they're like, what the heck is that? Why is it out here? Why is it submerged? And then like they saw the Tic Tac thing flying around it. So maybe you could count the cross-shaped large thing as one. I don't know.
So he's only seen the Tic Tac. He hasn't been in a Tic Tac.
No, he hasn't been in one though.
Okay. Has he been in any alien
No.
spacecraft? So he's only seen.
He's only observed.
Okay.
He's seen with his eyes and with the instruments in his plane.
Okay.
And no, I would say he seemed pretty convincing. Like just watching him and the scientist guy, like they don't come across as liars or crazy people. So it seems that they at least both think that they saw those things. They both believe that they saw those things. Could they be wrong? Could they be mistaken? I mean, they saw him in groups. Like the pilot guy, he was out with like a whole complement of pilots or whatever. I don't know what you call that. And they all saw it.
Yeah. Well, and from his perspective, right, it's not that the United States has alien spacecraft, just they exist,
Mhm.
right? That's
Right.
all he knows. Whereas the Area 51 guy thinks
Oh yeah, we have it. Yeah,
that
that's
the
what he
United
says,
States
yeah.
is in possession of
Mhm.
some. And did he work on them? Was that his
Yes.
job?
Yes.
It's like understanding, reverse engineering
Mm-hmm.
the tech? Was that his role?
Yes. And so what's interesting is there.
So one thing that would make it more plausible that he was actually doing that is if there were like applications in the real world now that had come from that, right?
Mhm.
Some minor technology like Bluetooth, right?
Yeah.
Came from studying these alien ships or anything, Velcro.
Yeah. There are some things that he claimed back then that turned out to be true, and so some people kind of use that as evidence. I don't know how good that evidence is, but for example, back then, it was believed that gravity was an undiscovered particle, but now we know that gravity is a wave. Where I guess pretty much everything is particle wave duality. I guess I don't know if gravity is too, but back then I guess he was saying gravity is a wave, and everyone thought he was crazy. But now it's like, oh, he's right.
So more it's concepts have come out of it, understanding, and not actual tangible technology.
Maybe.
See that that to me is a hole in the story, right? It's like if you've had any success in understanding how this stuff works, then there would be simpler applications that you would see in the military at least, right?
Right.
Like you'd say like the stealth jets, that's how we figured out how to do it, right?
Mhm.
Is an idea we took from the ships at Area 51. I like to say like we've just gotten ideas. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't
It
know.
seems like a hole to me because we love our technology.
Right. Yeah, I don't know about us actually having craft. I think I'm more skeptical about the Area 51 guy than I am about the pilot guy, because the pilot guy, I mean, he saw things in with groups, of his other pilots, fellow pilots. He also has expertise in flying vehicles, being able to recognize the capability of vehicles, their size, how fast they're moving, whether or not they, are similar to other things that we know exist. Like I think he has a more trained eye, right, than I would. For example, if I looked out of an airplane and saw something moving in the sky, I'm probably too much of a noob to feel confident that I could draw any real
Right.
conclusions from it.
Significantly less experience.
Yeah. And so, but what's interesting though is the pilot guy hasn't suffered any consequences of talking about this stuff in public.
Oh yeah, was he supposed to keep quiet about it?
I don't know. I don't think so, but
Yeah, it seems like they only want you to be silent about like military operations, past, present, and future, right?
yeah. And
It's like
so,
if the United States didn't plan it, right? It's just something you observed while you were out and about doing training or whatever. Then whatever you want to say, right?
yeah. And so the scientist guy, though, he suffered a lot of repercussions. And I think, though, that it's probably because he does actually get into technological stuff. And I'm guessing that, I think for sure we have scientists working on advanced classified stuff in this country, right?
Yeah,
For sure. That's like,
no doubt.
it's like a given, right?
We're being surveilled by our own government.
Yeah.
Right? Surely they have secret projects.
Yes. And so even if all the stuff about it being aliens and whatnot is completely wrong or a lie or whatever, he's still a guy who's probably under a very strict NDA talking about stuff, and there may have been some things that were real. Maybe he is working on creating unstable elements with a particle accelerator, and so by talking about stuff, it kind of hinted at that, and they didn't like it. So there are plausible, I think, explanations for why he would suffer consequences for coming out and whistleblowing on the aliens, other than the fact that aliens are actually there. I think it could just be because he talked about advanced technologies that we may be either trying to work towards or maybe even have. And so that's probably why he suffered and the pilot guy didn't. The pilot guy's just like, whoa, we saw this weird thing in the sky, and it's crazy, and it's weird, and it shouldn't be able to move like that, And the scientist guy is talking about, like, anti-gravity and stable isotopes of elements that we haven't been able to create stable ones of yet, and propulsion systems that don't use things like combustion or whatever, So there may be pieces of that they don't want him talking about.
Yeah.
So it's not necessarily that they're like, oh man, we need to cover up the fact that he's spilling the beans on the aliens, Jordan, on those UFOs we have. I don't know. It's interesting to think about, though.
Yeah.
So you don't think anybody's been abducted by aliens? You think those stories are kind of...
It's hard to think of a reason why they would abduct.
Yeah.
right? I mean, so let's assume that they aren't that far away,
Mhm.
right? That they can just cloak themselves super well. So they're nearby and they're just trying to steal resources or gather intelligence or anyway. Why would you do it that way? Like, so assuming that you have the cloaking power, right? You
Mhm.
can be invisible. Why would you abduct someone?
I
You
don't
could
know.
just study them in their natural environment, right? Like,
Yeah.
would you rather have a gorilla in a cage or would you rather be invisible yourself inside the gorilla enclosure?
I guess if you wanted that, if you just wanted to learn about them, how they really work, you'd want to observe, right? But if you wanted to like dissect them or vivisect or
Oh,
something,
sure.
then
Well,
you-
there's
you'd
no need
abduct.
to abduct them alive, though, right?
maybe, yeah.
I mean, assume you can cloak yourself. Like you have significant control over the electromagnetic spectrum, right? So an X-ray scan or whatever would be much simpler than sucking somebody into your ship and then cutting them open with a scalpel, like you're some
Yeah.
sort of high school biology student,
Yeah,
right?
that's
Like,
true.
we're doing surgery with laser and stuff. So
Yeah.
why would an advanced sentient species be using high school dissection tools? You know,
Mhm.
why would they be using scalpels? It doesn't add up to me.
Yeah, and why would they return people after that too?
Yeah, what's the point?
Why not keep them as a specimen? Why not put them in a zoo?
Right?
Yeah,
Unless they want to track you. 'Cause, I mean, that's what we'll do, right?
tag and release. Yeah,
We'll tag a shark or whatever because we don't have a way to keep track of you.
yeah.
But if your technology is that advanced, yeah,
I don't know.
doesn't seem rational to me. Like, given that you're advanced enough to get here and to abduct someone, why would you?
Mm-hmm. Aliens, Jordan.
Aliens. Yeah, it's fun to think about. Now I'm curious what Wikipedia says about Area 51. I heard on TV once, I don't know how true it is, but the government denied even the existence of Area 51.
Really?
Like, people could see it. If you would ask, some government entity about it, they would not acknowledge that it existed.
Yeah.
But maybe that was an exaggeration by the guy on TV. I'm just curious what Wikipedia has to say. But this guy on Joe Rogan, it was Area 51. That's where
Yeah.
he was.
And it was his podcast apparently that inspired the Raid Area 51 event. Did you hear about that event?
Yeah, I heard about it.
Yeah.
It's like 100,000 people were going to go there.
Yeah. I think far fewer than that showed up, but
Yeah. And
those
I
people
just
still arrived.
took
And,
selfies and went home.
yeah. Because nobody was crazy enough to actually charge the gates of Area 51. But yeah, it would be interesting to know what they have there.
Yeah. Seems like you might be better off charging the gates with drones than in person, right?
Yeah. I wonder what people thought they'd be able to do, though. Just run in there and liberate the aliens, fly out of there in a UFO. I don't know.
Demand to see all of the things.
Yeah. You got Brent Spiner down there.
So what is the strangest documented thing that's actually happened, to establish Area 51 and all that? So we have these accounts, right, of individuals.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what documented things do we have?
I don't even know.
Like Stonehenge, right, the existence of that, and the pyramids,
Mm-hmm.
like the people that existed at the time. So far as we know, they didn't have the tech to do those things. Is that the closest that we've got to establishing aliens?
I think with the pyramids, we're pretty sure now. I mean,
How they did it?
Yeah,
Figured out their tech.
This comes from my discovery tour of Egypt that I did in Assassin's Creed Origins.
Oh, okay.
So, but yeah, I think that in like our current Egyptologists have a pretty good idea of how it happened, how they did it. They like made ramps and stuff.
What about Stonehenge? Is that one solved yet?
Stonehenge? I don't know. That's a good question. Might be.
Well, that doesn't establish aliens, really. They're just things that we can't explain.
Yeah.
I mean, things that we can do now, right?
Yeah.
There's just nothing in history to suggest that earlier peoples could have.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they're the ones that became the aliens.
Yeah.
That's why they abduct people.
Yeah, they got tired of putting stone pillars on top of each other and started making
Because
advanced.
they've mastered
craft.
technology and all that stuff, except biology. That's where they're weakest. So when they abduct somebody, it's because they need like a kidney or a liver or something. That's what it's all about.
Yeah. Organ harvesting.
Yeah, your intestinal lining. They just need the flora that's in your gut. That's why they abduct you, and that's why they send you back.
They just take what they need and release.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're the ones that built Stonehenge and the pyramids. Seems like there isn't. Yeah, like that's as close as it gets, right? Stonehenge and the pyramids.
Yeah, I can't think of anything else. It's weird. I don't know.
I mean, there's crop circles, but kind of not, because you can make a crop
Yeah.
circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
But why would you make a crop circle? Why would so many people in so many places be making them? It's not rational.
Yeah. Art? I don't know.
Or maybe it is a part of the human psyche. Like
Troll people.
if you get enough people near enough fields, we start making crop circles.
Maybe. I mean, the pilot guy said that he used to do maneuvers specifically to try to freak people out and make them think it was a UFO. Like he would, can't remember exactly how he would describe it, but he would like be flying over an area where he knew campgrounds were, and he'd cut all his lights and his engines, so he's just like gliding, and then when he would get like over the area where all the campgrounds were, he would just like turn on his thrusters and zoom off into the sky and then cut them again, so all people would see is like they wouldn't hear the plane approaching because the engines were off, and then they'd just see like a light come on and whoop, and then disappear again.
Because he wanted to punk
Yeah,
people?
just to punk people. Yeah.
Well, that doesn't help your validity very much, Mr. Podcast guest.
Yeah.
So you have a history
Of punking people into thinking that they're UFOs. Yeah.
right.
Yeah, but this time was different. And they do have a recording of it, which is interesting. I don't know. Maybe there is something to these videos or to the claims that people are coming out with. But I really don't know what to make of it. Thought it'd be an interesting thing to talk about.
Yeah, it's an interesting topic. For me, the most interesting part is just like reasoning from the alien perspective, as much as you could.
Yeah.
Right? Given what we know about the universe, which is that life is super rare,
Mm-hmm.
how would you behave if you were visiting another planet that had life on it?
Yeah.
You would probably be right down there with it. I mean, unless you were vulnerable, but it's hard to believe you being vulnerable, right?
But what about the Prime Directive, Jordan? You
It's
know,
like you and I, Tim. Imagine that dinosaurs existed, the giant dinosaurs,
Mhm.
and we had the choice of any weapons in the world to take with us into a dinosaur enclosure. Would we be nervous? No, we wouldn't be nervous. I mean, we want some training first, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd want to know how to use the rocket launcher first. Once you felt confident with the thing, right? Like I'm not afraid of dinosaurs. Take them all on.
Yeah.
Not saying that I want to jump into the jungle, right?
Right,
There are
yeah.
lessons of Vietnam.
Yeah.
You don't
for
want to
sure.
be in foreign turf, right?
It's true.
But
It'll
yeah,
catch you off guard.
in an open field with giant dinosaurs. So just assume that you're an alien, right? You can do that same thing. Like your tech is that advanced.
Yeah.
I guess unless they haven't invested anything in weapons, but it's hard. I don't know. I guess they could be significantly different than us, right?
Mm-hmm. But again, though, maybe they have the Prime Directive, Jordan. Isn't that what it's called? From
What's the prime
that the
directive?
Federation has in Star Trek, where it's like you don't interfere with primitive societies or whatever. You only observe. You don't let them know of your existence or do
No,
anything to
yeah.
alter their evolutionary path or anything.
Yep.
Maybe they have something like that. I don't know. What I find strange, though, is I think a lot of how we perceive the motives of potential aliens are based on the fact that that a very small subset of humanity goes into space. Like the people we send into space, NASA scientists,
Yeah.
Air Force pilots, whatever. You and I, we don't go into space.
No, we don't.
And so if NASA had some kind of like prime director or whatever, I could see it like, oh yeah, like the people we send up, they're very disciplined, they're very careful, very professional, they're very trained, they know what they're doing. But what if we were a society where interstellar spacecraft were available at the same, had the same availability as cars?
It's like getting your first car when you're 16.
Right. What if these advanced alien societies are at the point where even your 16-year-old daughter can fly across the galaxy?
Yeah,
Then there's not going to be any kind of like
that's true.
directive or there'd be some like drunk kid who crashes his spacecraft into our planet or who comes swooping in and shoots a bunch of us with his lasers or
Yeah.
well,
Well, they have to have a significantly different frame of reference than
Yeah.
us, right? Like transportation to them would be like as easy as breathing is for us,
yeah.
right? Because for us, from our perspective, life in the universe is super rare.
Mm-hmm.
But if moving is like breathing, right? Like if you can move faster than light or bend space or whatever, right? Just be whatever you want, just by your own will instantly. And yeah, then you might have things like abductions or whatever. From that frame of reference, it makes more sense, right? And crashed spaceships too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like a crashed car. Joyriding, or whatever they call it. Steal a car, crash it, leave it.
Yeah.
But then how do you get home? I guess you're cruising around with your friends. You crash yours and you ride home in their spaceship.
Yeah. Let's call them up on your intergalactic cell phone. Give them your coordinates, and boom, they're there to pick you up. Maybe.
Yeah, we're so far beneath their consciousness that they're not interested in us. I don't know that that's true for us, but our minds could potentially work real different. So we can be interested by ants, right?
Yeah,
Super simple things. We study bacteria.
we sure do. Yeah, microbiology, all that stuff. But yeah, I mean, if you could go anywhere at any time instantly, then you could. I don't know. It might be harder to keep your interest in any individual thing at that point, right?
Well, and with spacecraft like that, right? Like, there's no way we could reverse engineer that. Like, to understand it, we don't have anything that even comes remotely close to what that is,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like, we don't even have hope of going a significant fraction of the speed of light.
Right. Yeah.
Like, as humans, right? We can make things go fast.
And even the speed of light is slow on a galactic scale.
Oh yeah.
Let
Compared
alone
to-
intergalactic.
Yeah. So for a species that didn't care about life, right, on our planet, because they can see and travel so far, of course, there's life everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's trivial to them. I just couldn't see us, even beginning to fathom their technology.
Mm-hmm.
So far removed from what we have.
But I want one today, Jordan.
Be like, instead of dropping a car into the medieval times, it'd be dropping a flux capacitor.
Yes.
It would become a religious artifact, is what it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't be a tool for traveling through time. Couldn't even begin to comprehend what it was.
Yeah. An interesting analogy the Area 51 scientist gave was how them studying that like anti-grav power generator thing would be like if you threw like a nuclear reactor into 1,000 years ago or whatever, throw it into medieval times or before or something, right? They'd be able to see that it's generating power, but they wouldn't really know how at all. They'd have no idea. It's like free powered. Where does it come from?
Well, you
And
don't even
then-
have a concept of an atom.
Right.
Right?
And then as they messed with it, they would start to
die from radiation poisoning.
So you stay away.
Yeah, since they won't even know what's
Yeah.
happening to them, something invisible would be killing them. And so it was just interesting for him to mention that when he was like put on that project to study it. It's like there could be something that's happening to us as we're exposed to this that we don't even know about, can't even comprehend. We could start dying in 10 years, hair falling out and skin blistering away or whatever, and we wouldn't even know. This is just that far advanced beyond their comprehension.
Well, I'll have to check Wikipedia.
Indeed.
So are these the only two Aliens episodes Mr. Rogan has ever done?
Um,
Or has he done other stuff? Does he have themes, or is it just like
It's
is it about bringing people on?
yeah, it's bringing people on, and usually each guest has like some area that they're either like an expert in or famous for or whatever, and that's what the focus becomes. Like if you're a world famous rock climber, he'll talk about rock climbing. If you're a physicist, talk about physics. If you work in Area 51, what he wants to hear about is those aliens.
Yeah. What else is there to talk about?
Yeah, and I don't remember any other Alien episodes. I haven't listened to even a significant fraction of his podcast because there's so many. But one interesting thing, did I mention this last time? Edward Snowden, he said that he had an incredible level of access to the government's information, and he searched for information on aliens and came up with nothing. So he's pretty convinced that we don't have the aliens because he thinks he probably would have seen it.
So Snowden says no aliens. But did he say anything about alien tech?
So what he said was no. He didn't say anything about like nothing even tangentially related.
No indication that
Right.
aliens had even
Yes, correct.
any of their garbage had landed here. Even.
But what he did say is that if we do have that stuff, we're hiding it even from ourselves. So, yeah.
Deny everything. Where's the cigarette smoking man that we
I
needed?
know, right?
Straight X Files right now.
Yep. So, but yeah, I mean, Snowden found no information on aliens or anything related to
So was
aliens.
the domestic surveillance, was that the spiciest thing he found?
Probably,
Okay.
yeah. I don't know if that'd be a good question for him.
So did the Area 51 guy know anything about the history of it? Like how it began, why it was where it was?
No.
How old it was when he came on board?
So one thing that was interesting listening to him talk was he talked about how there was a lot of information put out there that was false, and a lot of it was deliberately so, for a couple of reasons. The first is he said sometimes he'd be exposed to like false information, kind of like as a test to see like, would he be able to pick it out? Would he be able to figure out like this is real, this isn't, or and the other thing is he said that sometimes he'd come across information that was probably false, and it seemed like it was done that way so that if there was a leak, they could trace it back to you. So, for example, you would get a memo. It'd be like, "Hey, Jordan, this spacecraft that we recovered, it came from Mars," and then like I would get the same memo except it would say from Venus, and that way if it got leaked to the news and like Area 51 scientist who wishes to remain anonymous says that they now have spacecraft from Mars, then they would know it was you. So, he did mention stuff like that, where he came across information, and he's still to this day not sure if it was just thrown in there, kind of like as a red herring, or even as just like a test, or if it was real. And he said like he came across, what was it? He came across something saying that the craft he was working on was from, what's the name of the planet or the system? It's like Zeta Reticuli or something. I guess, is a solar system somewhere nearby in our galaxy. But yeah, and he doesn't know if that's actually real or not. It could have been just given to him so that if he did tell somebody, it would have been easily traceable to him. So
Did he say anything about who runs Area 51?
So he talked about kind of the hierarchy and how it works. He doesn't know who the people were at the top, but he said basically people like him they worked with a partner, so it would be like groups of two, and you would have a very specific compartmentalized task. So it'd be like your job is to figure out how this propulsion system works. And then that team over there, they're working on what is the material that the craft is made out of. And you don't work together, you don't share information, you have no idea how their progress is going. They have no idea about anything you figured out. But you all report upward to one small group that's running everything, and they have all the knowledge. There's a small group that knows everything, but almost everybody only knows their one piece. That way, they control the information.
So is it in the style of like R&D for the military, or is it more academic, like his superiors, the people he was reporting to? Are they like just higher scientists, greater scientists?
He said military was involved, but I don't know. It's a good question. It's also interesting to wonder how they like evaluate people, and whether or not they're doing well. Because you could be put on a task that's like impossible for you to figure out, and you work on your entire life and never come up with anything significant, right? I don't know. But he said for the most part, what they would do is you'd get assigned to a project and you'd go as far as you can, and then they'd pull you off and put you on something else. And then like 10 years in the future, when our technology is advanced or science is advanced, they pull that project back off the shelf and see if there's anything more you can learn from it, and then reshelve it again once you've done as much as you can. So they're constantly shuffling projects in and out to see if anything in the last 5 to 10 years would allow for a breakthrough.
Did he say how big the operation was? How many people?
I don't think he did.
And do they live on site?
I think so.
When you
yeah.
work at Area 51, that's where you live? It's like a military base kind of thing?
Yeah, I think so. Probably.
Like some hardcore research institution?
Yeah.
Space!
He's got a documentary on Netflix if you want to watch it.
Oh, yeah? Is that how Joe Rogan found out about him?
Mm-hmm.
What's the dude's name?
Bob Lazar, B-O-B. I mean, I guess you don't need to know how to spell Bob. Lazar is L-A-Z-A-R.
Bob Lazar, huh?
Yeah. Can't remember the name of the pilot guy. I can try to pull that up, though.
Let's see what Google tells me when I Google Bob Lazar. Oh yeah, I have terrible reception in here. There's a picture of him. Robert Scott Lazar is an American who is primarily known for his claims of having been hired in the late 80s to reverse engineer purported extraterrestrial technology at a secret site called S4, allegedly located several kilometers south of the United States Air Force facility, popular known as Area 51. So Area 51 is an Air Force facility.
So
He's got his own Wikipedia article.
the Air Force guy is Commander David Fravor. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. David Fravor, F-R-A-V-O-R, retired U.S. Navy pilot. I've been screwing that up the whole time, calling him Air Force, Jordan.
Just lost a subscriber.
Yeah, I know.
Due to your
Oh
carelessness.
man, terrible. Yeah, apparently his encounter was in 2004 with the Tic Tac. Yeah, he's JRE 1361, and then Bob Lazar is JRE 1315.
Yeah, Wikipedia says that because of Lazar. I mean, he's part of the reason that Area 51 is a thing.
Yeah, he kind of blew the whistle on it. People didn't know it existed. So yeah, I mean, that alone is probably enough for the government to kind of turn on him, right? It's just like exposing its existence, even if there's nothing true about the aliens. He still kind of, broke confidentiality or whatever.
So some of the researchers at MIT say that Lazar was never employed at Nellis Air Force Base. Is that Area 51? He was never employed there, and he doesn't hold degrees from MIT or Caltech, as he claims.
Yeah, apparently those.
Oh, his Joe Rogan appearances on here. Even.
Yeah. Apparently people were able to find evidence that he really did, though. They tried to remove his past credentials and stuff, which is interesting. To me, that adds a little bit of credibility to what he's saying. Not necessarily that everything he's saying is true. I mean, like I said, it could just be about the fact that he blew open the door on Area 51. But, I mean, they went out of their way to, remove his educational and, work experience records. But people were still able to find him. They destroyed all evidence that he worked at, what is it, SR4 or whatever?
Yeah, you're right about atomic number 115.
Yeah, nice. But then, people, he talked about how he was in the newspaper while he was working there. And so people were able to dig up the newspaper article and show that he was there. And it says, Bob Lazar, a scientist at SR4. And then somebody also found him in a phone book indicating that he was an employee there or whatever. So people have been able to dig up evidence that he really did work at those places and that he really did have those degrees, even though the official records have been erased. That's kind of interesting, huh?
Yeah, there's Zeta Reticuli.
Was I right?
Yeah, so
Boom.
I don't know if there is a place, that our astronomers have labeled that. But Lazar said that he's read briefing documents describing the historical involvement of Earth for the past 10,000 years with extraterrestrial beings described as gray aliens from a planet orbiting the twin binary star system Zeta Reticuli. As of September 2019, no extrasolar planets have been found in the Zeta Reticuli system. So the system exists, but I guess there's no planets in there. His story quickly garnered enormous media attention, controversy, supporters, and detractors. Lazar admits he cannot support with evidence his core claim of alien technology. He continues to make the same claim. So what is known about him? Pierce Junior College in Los Angeles. He claims he has a master's degree from MIT and Caltech. There are no records of him being either place. In 1990, he was arrested for aiding and abetting a prostitution ring. This was reduced to felony pandering, to which he pleaded guilty. He was ordered to do 158 hours of community service, stay away from brothels, and undergo psychotherapy. Bankruptcy documents verify Lazar was self-employed as a film processor. What's United Nuclear? He owns and operates United Nuclear Scientific Equipment and Supplies, which sells a variety of materials, including radiation centers, radioactive ores, non-radioactive elements, powerful magnets, and other scientific equipment such as aerogel, as well as a variety of lab chemicals. In 2006, he and his wife were charged with violating the Federal Hazardous Substances Act for shipping restricted chemicals across state lines.
I wonder what they had.
The charges stemmed from a 2003 raid on United Nuclear's business offices where chemical sales records were examined. Kind of sounds like a Cave Johnson.
Does he have combustible lemons, Jordan?
I've not encountered them yet. His wife wasn't named Gladys, though. I guess was that the lady's name?
I don't remember what her name was. What was it?
She was only Gladys as the bot, right?
Yeah.
Was it Caroline?
Yeah, I think that's what it was. think you might be right. I can pull that up, but yeah, I don't know. I mean,
The thing about Cave Johnson, though, is he was right about those moon rocks
he was.
and the portal guns.
Yeah, Caroline.
Clearly, he had something to do with the portal guns. Had he discovered the portal guns? Like by the end of the narrative, by the time you leave the compound? Can't remember them. There's the bouncy stuff. There's like the slippery stuff. I can't remember. There's the moon rocks. But I don't know that he'd officially invented a portal gun before he went under.
I don't know.
Anyway, I'm sure him and Bob Lazar would have been friends, though.
Probably. Yeah, I don't know. None of that stuff necessarily discredits him, but
No.
it's, I don't know.
They say he presents himself well.
He does, and I don't know, he's good at telling the story and not coming off as a liar, I guess. If that's kind of a weird way of saying it, but
This does look like it's trying to discredit him a little bit. Slightly. Like the prostitution thing. I mean, you could mention it. But I mean, he didn't do time, right?
yeah,
So whatever his involvement was, it was within the bounds of not going to prison.
yeah.
Right. Which isn't to say that his character is unimpeachable. Is that the word?
Sure.
The one where you got like the untouchable character.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, not a paladin, but at the same time, I don't even feel like this is worth mentioning. You know, within the context of
Right.
him working on UFOs and stuff.
Yeah, it smells a little of character assassination.
Yeah, like it's not really relevant. It doesn't feel like.
Yeah, can't remember what his show or his movie or whatever documentary is called on Netflix, but
No,
it's
that's
there.
on.
You can just search.
Let me pull it
yeah,
up.
you can just search Bob Lazar and
There's an in-film part of this article. So let me go there, expand it. In film, the 2018 feature-length documentary Bob Lazar, Area 51 and Flying Saucers, focuses on Lazar's claims that he attempted to reverse engineer alien spacecraft. The United States military at S4. The documentary is directed by Jeremy Corbell, produced by George Knapp.
Jeremy Corbell is the guy who was on both Joe Rogan podcasts with these guys, but he's there with Bob Lazar and with what's his name, David Fravor, the Navy pilot. And I don't want to say Air Force again. Don't want to mess that up again. So yeah, he seems to be a big believer of the UFO stuff.
But, I mean, he first blew the whistle in May 1989. So what's this brother been doing since then? Right? That was
Yeah.
30 years ago.
It's a long time, right? Yeah.
So if he's 60 now, he would have been 30 then.
Yeah. I don't know what he's been doing. But, I mean, if they nuked all his credentials and work history, I imagine he's had a hard time.
Walmart greeter? Works at Best Buy somewhere?
Maybe. But. So Vince, speaking of unimpeachable, Vince mentioned that we should talk about impeachment on this podcast. I don't really follow it enough to really have much to say, though.
Oh, people are talking about impeaching the president still?
Yeah,
Because of, was it Ukraine?
I believe so.
Something to do with Ukraine?
Yeah.
I don't pay attention to that news. It feels like not real news to me. It feels
Yeah.
like circus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, I mean, I get that there are a lot of people who want to see Trump out of office. And once again, like I mentioned in almost every podcast we've had, I am no Trump supporter. But it's going back again to South Park. It's like the episode, I don't know if you've seen, Douche and Turd.
No.
No. Basically, they have an election to choose like their new school mascot. And the two options put forth are a giant douche and a turd sandwich. And so Stan doesn't want to vote. He's like, what's the point of voting if all I have to choose between is a giant douche and a turd sandwich? And so there's like this whole subplot where like he gets exiled from the town for not voting and for saying that voting isn't important, and Puff Daddy tries to murder him for not voting.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
So I guess Puff Daddy appears often in South Park.
Does he? I've only seen him in this one, I think.
Yeah, he's in at least one other. There's some
Uh,
joke about being, I think it's him, a gay fish.
No, that's Kanye.
Oh,
But they do mistake Kanye for Puff Daddy when he shows up. Like, Puff Daddy? Yeah. But no, it's Kanye. Yeah.
Oh man, does that make me an old white guy?
Maybe. But that episode was also great. Fish sticks. But yeah, so eventually Stan, he just, he gives in and votes, casts a vote. And they're like, so you're finally admitting like how important voting is? He's like, no, I just realized I have to come to terms with the fact that most of the time I'm just going to have to choose between a giant douche and a turd sandwich. Oh, man. But yeah, so that's how I kind of see it. It's like, so we get rid of Trump, okay? So what, are we really going to not have a giant douche or a turd sandwich, Jordan? Not really. I think we're just trading one for the other. So that's why I'm not super invested in the outcome or whatever.
What would Vince say about the impeachment?
I don't know. I think he probably would still rather see Trump than somebody else, I guess.
What happens when a president gets impeached? Would it be what's his name?
The vice president?
Yeah,
Maybe. I think that's how it works.
Todd
Pence?
something.
No, isn't it Mike
No,
Pence?
Yeah, Pence is the last name.
I think that guy would take over, right?
Let me ask.
Unless he was implicated too. Or, I don't know.
I don't know if it's smart enough or if I have enough reception in here.
Yeah, I could always use the laptop to pull it up, but
Who becomes the president if the president is impeached? If the president dies, resigns, or is removed from office, the vice president becomes president for the rest of the term. Also from Wikipedia. Wikipedia is at the point now where they could tell me anything and I would believe it.
yeah.
It's talking about that. Who was it? Can't remember now. Just about Google having that power. Like they collect so much data about us
Mm-hmm.
that they could say anything and we'd believe it, right?
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't think that much would change if President Trump did or did not get impeached.
Yeah, it would just be Mr. Pence would be the president, right?
Yeah, I don't know that he's any better or worse.
Right. Well, he can't be that different.
Right. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been chosen as the running mate.
Right.
And then again, election year next year, I don't think that there's going to be anybody I consider worth voting for on the ballot.
Yeah.
So really, like, what is the point? So yeah, that's why I don't really get all that invested or into any of the stuff going on with the president.
Sorry, Vince. That's all we
Yeah.
could say about
I
impeachment.
mean, I think it would be hard for anyone to convince me that he's significantly worse than like Hillary, for example.
Yeah.
I don't think he is. He might even be a little bit better. I don't know. But they're still both in the garbage tier. It's like what's the point of arguing which one is slightly more garbage than the other if they're both garbage tier?
Right.
It's I don't know.
The South Park episode says it all.
Yeah, it does. It does. It's great.
So Vince will have to come on the show again if he wants to talk impeachment.
Yeah. He also wanted us to talk about Epstein, but I don't really know a ton about him.
I don't know anything about him.
So I could pull up the circumstances of his death so I have heard the circumstances of his death. Jeffrey Epstein, and they are suspicious. And so like there's a big thing right now going on where people are saying, oh, he killed himself or he didn't kill himself, he was murdered, whatever. But he was like in jail on suicide watch, which meant that like a guard came by like every 10 minutes or whatever. I'm probably butchering this. And there was like a camera on him at all times, and like things were removed from his cell so he can like use them to like sheets to hang himself or something. And then like all of a sudden he's dead. And they're like, wait, what happened? Pull up the camera. Oh, the cameras were off at that time. What about the guard? Oh, the guard was unavailable or asleep or something. It's like, what? Like it was suspicious because there were like 3 or 4 like levels of redundancy to ensure that he couldn't like kill himself, and like all of them failed simultaneously, and the next thing you know he's dead. And like he shouldn't have known either. Like how would he know the camera was off, right? Like how would he know? Oh, this is my moment. The cameras are off. Nobody's watching. The guard's asleep. This is my moment. I'm gonna take it. You know? And so it's very suspicious. That's about all I know.
Who was he before he was imprisoned?
It says he was an American financier and convicted sex offender.
Okay.
He began as a teacher, then switched to the banking and finance sector, working at Bear Stearns before forming his own firm. He developed an elite social circle and procured women and many underage girls who were then sexually abused by him and some of those contacts. Sounds like a stand-up guy.
So why is it so newsworthy that he died?
I don't know. It says he was arrested on July 6, 2019, on charges of sex trafficking, and then died in his jail cell on August 10th, 2019.
So was there ever a time when he wasn't surrounded by controversy? Was like he just a big finance guy at some point, like a Wall Street fat cat, and that's why everyone cares about him?
I don't know, I guess.
A Bernie Madoff kind of character?
The examiner ruled the death a suicide, although his lawyers have disputed the ruling.
Why do his lawyers care?
I don't know. So he was awaiting trial on sex trafficking charges. He's transported to a local hospital for treatment of life-threatening injuries and subsequently pronounced dead by hospital staff. They ruled his death a suicide. The FBI and the Inspector General of the Justice Department are conducting investigations into the circumstances of his death. So there are violations of normal jail procedures on the night of his death. So the removal of his cellmate without a replacement, the falling asleep of 2 guards who were meant to check on him, and the malfunction of 2 cameras in front of his cell. Right?
Yeah, that does seem suspicious.
And it says he had knowledge of compromising information about famous people. That's the thing. Apparently, he was a part of an elite ring of like pedophiles and sex traffickers, and so he had dirt on everyone else who was part of it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, so maybe he was killed.
Yeah. So like
Back in X-Files territory.
Yeah. I think people suspect that he was going to make some kind of deal with law enforcement to like name everybody else for some kind of immunity or reduction of sentence. Right. And so
Billy's dead, McGarnagle. They slit his throat from ear to ear.
And so I think that's the deal, that like it was supposed to blow the lid on all the like rich sex trafficking people, and so like the rich elite who do this kind of stuff apparently.
Yeah, that's suspicious.
So it says, when he was placed in the special housing unit, he would have a cellmate, and the guard would look into the cell every 30 minutes. So I was off by a factor of 3. These procedures were not followed on the night he died. His cellmate was transferred out, and no new replacement was brought in. In violation of normal procedure, he was not checked every 30 minutes. The 2 guards who were assigned to check his cell overnight fell asleep for about 3 hours. 2 cameras in front of his cell also malfunctioned that night. In the morning around 6:30 a.m., he was found unresponsive in cardiac arrest in what was initially reported as an apparent suicide. He was rushed to the hospital and pronounced dead.
Yeah, it is suspicious, right? Because it's one thing if like all of the cameras were having trouble during that period, or all of the cameras on that one circuit. I mean, the way the story reads, there were 2 cameras only that had
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah. And it says, they ruled that he had hanged himself with a sheet from his bed. He had broken bones in his neck, which can happen when you hang yourself, but are more common when you are strangled. And so there's going to be like an independent investigation.
Yeah, it doesn't entirely add up though. Like, was he planning to confess? Was he planning to name a bunch of people? Sounds like he just wanted to end his life anyway, right? It's like, if you just want to end it, what do you care about dragging down a bunch of people with you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that part is a little bit inconsistent.
Yeah, the problem is that he's the one guy involved in the whole ring that they had in custody, and so with his death, there's like no leads, I guess, on anybody else who was involved.
Yeah.
There's no way to prove that there was anyone else.
So was he on suicide watch?
I mean, they say so, but
Yeah. So it's hard to know how suicidal he was from the context of the story.
yeah, I mean, if he was on suicide watch, why wasn't he in a padded cell with no sheets? I don't know. And why would he have a cellmate? That's weird too. I don't know. His death spawned skepticism as well as multiple conspiracy theories. Only 29% of American adults believe he actually committed suicide. 42% think he was murdered to prevent him from testifying against powerful people, and 29% were undecided. Before his death, several people publicly predicted an untimely death for him in prison. So there are people predicting that he was going to either die or kill himself. And yet, both guards fall asleep, they don't follow procedure, and both cameras fail. And not the cameras around his cell, just the ones in front of it. It's like, come on. Yeah, this is crazy. It's crazy, Jordan. There's speculation that some co-conspirator or participant in his sex crimes might have arranged for him to be silenced. Interesting. Yeah, Vincent suggested that he thinks that that he was told, like, kill yourself, or we're gonna like murder your family or something. And so then they were able to like bribe the guards to like shut off the cameras and not go there, and then that gave him a window to kill himself, and then he did in order to like protect his family or something. I don't know. That's what Vincent said his theory is. I don't know if I have a theory, but reading this, I'm skeptical. It doesn't sound like suicide to me.
Yeah.
It's way too convenient. Yes, very suspicious. Very suspicious. Our listeners are going to have to comment on the video with what they think happened.
Grab your cell phone and vote now.
That's right.
Or comment
Did
on the
Jeffrey
video.
Epstein kill himself? Or was it Hillary Clinton? Apparently that's a popular accusation to accuse the Clintons. In the hours after the death, the hashtag Clinton body count was trending on Twitter. That's funny. Anything else you wanted to cover today, Jordan?
Nope. Nothing from me. What about you?
I don't know. I can't think of anything else.
You better wrap it up then.
Yeah, we've done an hour and a half. It's a pretty good episode, I'd say. Yeah. So
Star Wars, aliens, politics, conspiracies.
Yeah.
All we were missing was the cigarette smoking man.
Yeah, we needed Fox Mulder as a guest, or the Cigarette Man, or Dana Scully, Jordan.
Dana Scully.
Yeah, except she would have just been skeptical the whole time.
Yeah, she never believes anything.
I know. Especially like that was what was crazy. It's like episode after episode, all this super crazy and weird stuff happens. Some of it she can kind of rationalize away, but a lot of it she couldn't. But she like never really started to kind of like accept the possibility of any of it. It was always like she remained a true hardened skeptic to the end, Jordan. I don't know, I didn't watch every episode, but it seemed like that.
Yeah, that was my read on Scully as well.
You know?
Maybe she was part of the whole thing.
Yeah.
She was trying to turn Mulder away
That's
from
right.
the truth.
That is basically why they assigned her to him, though, like to ground him, you know, to put a short leash on him. Is why they assigned her to him. So, yeah, good old Fox Mulder, true American hero, Jordan.
That's right. This episode is for Fox.
Yeah, we dedicate it to Fox Mulder. Anyway, we'll see you again 2 weeks from now, hopefully with a guest. So, as always, thanks for listening.
Yeah.